Well, Brian, that's it. We just had our final media scrum with Carl Jarrell leading up to the season opener. It's time to take a big sigh of relief and get ready for this 2022 season to kick off.
Yeah, first off, I feel like we should be talking about the Broncos here, but yeah, it is time, and you can tell, Carl's in business mode now. I mean, it's game week, and he was great with the media, but you can just tell the demeanor changes a little bit. Like, okay, we're in game week. We're 3 days away here, so yeah, it is time for game. I think you and I have talked about it before that after 8 months or so, we're kind of ready to stop talking about this team and let's just go watch them.
Mark Perry's return here to Boulder, that'll be interesting. He's going to be a starting safety for them. Showed a lot of potential here, but was kind of up and down during his career here. And then CU has Michael Downing on their staff that comes from TCU. He played there, coached there for quite a while. So I would imagine both Coach Downing here in CU and Mark Perry there in Fort Worth are kind of sharing some insights into the personnel they're about to face off against.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. And frankly, Mark might have been the top safety here. It would have been him and Isaiah Lewis. But yeah, there's probably a little bit of sharing of ideas and personnel tips on both sides. I mean, Mark knows a lot of the guys here, right? And Downing knows a lot of the guys there. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that's kind of a small thing. I think there's enough preparation that goes on among the coaching staff that they can figure out enough stuff, and there's enough things you can do to counter it. But it's an interesting sidelight to this game for sure.
TCU went 5-7 last year. They have not had back-to-back losing seasons since the mid-90s. So they're hoping to bounce back a little bit this year. Gary Patterson was their head coach for 21 seasons. Sonny Dykes comes in, first year at the helm there. New systems offensively and defensively. Now CU's breaking in a new system offensively as well, but there's always going to be growing pains, and this is the first football game for that program with the head coach and the coordinators.
Yeah, and I think you look at Sonny Dykes' history, and he typically his worst year at a program is his first year, and he did win his very first game as head coach at Louisiana Tech, but he lost his openers at both Cal and SMU, and so maybe that bodes well for CU that you're getting him early. I think he's a good coach and that he's going to get him going, but history shows that he struggles a little bit out of the gate to get things rolling. And the point was made to me to one of the TCU reporters that I don't think he had the talent at those other places right off the bat that he does here, and that might be true. We'll find out, but I do think you're getting TCU at a good time. I mean, no matter the talent, it's still they're playing their very first game under this coaching staff and trying to work out some kinks.
They have the second most returning production from last season of anybody in the Big 12. I look at that and I see offensively a lot of skill players. Quentin Johnston, a big 6'4", 215-pound target that I think as a freshman broke some kind of record for yards per catch, is going to be a tough challenge for them. They've got a really good running back, Miller, that was the backup last year but had a really good, healthy yards per carry average. And then a quarterback, they've got with is it Max Dugan?
Yeah, Duggan.
Duggan.
Yeah.
He started 29 games, but it sounds like he might not even be the starter. Chandler Morris, it sounds like, might take the first snap in this football game. So I see TCU being able to score some points in this matchup, but on the other side of it, this TCU team gave up an average of 35 points a game. Right. Only Kansas in the Big 12 was worse last year. And it sounds like they're solid at cornerback, and they've got some other decent players defensively. But I think this is a good matchup for Mike Sanford to kind of break in his new offense here in Boulder.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that their defense at 3-3-5 is kind of set up to try to prevent some of those big passes. But I still think there's an opportunity here for whoever the starting quarterback is, whether it's Brendan or JT, to maybe hit some things underneath, get the run game going a little bit. TCU was bad against the run last year. This might be a good game for that offensive line at CU to get some confidence. We'll see. But I do like the matchup. I think that it bodes well for CU's offense to maybe get some things done. Now, defensively, I think it's got to scare you a little bit to see that receiver talent for TCU against these very young corners and secondary guys for the Buffs. I mean, a 6'4" receiver against these smallish corners for the Buffs, it's got to make you a little bit nervous.
Yeah, and just in general, I expect, and it sounds crazy to say this coming off last year, but I kind of expect a shootout on Friday night. I'd be really surprised if this is a low-scoring football game. I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks out there. And my impression of the CU defense, at least early in the season, is that they're going to be more of a bend but don't break type team. So I see TCU getting a lot of field goals in this game, and that'll kind of be reflected in my score prediction. What are just kind of your expectations as far as that goes?
Yeah, it depends on what you qualify as a shootout, but I see a fairly high scoring game. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of points on the board. I think it'll be an entertaining game, and I do think that field goals could be the difference in this one when you hear my score prediction. But I think I'm not quite ready to predict the Buffs are going to get into the end zone a ton. So I think there's going to be some field goals on that side. And I agree with you. I think this defense for CU could be bend but don't break, allow some field goals, maybe not a ton of touchdowns, but field goals could be the difference here.
Yeah. Do you want to go score prediction here and then do some of our season predictions? Does that sound good?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know that I was kind of fighting the Kool-Aid that you drank around camp, and had I been at TCU for half the camp and here for the other half, maybe I would feel a little bit differently about this game. But I look at the line that's out there, and I think it's about 13 and a half that TCU's favor right now. And I scratch my head. I don't see that based on what TCU did last year. Like we talked about, a new staff, a defense that's questionable. It's in Boulder. And Colorado, and we'll get into this with our season prediction, in my opinion, is nowhere near as bad as these people that are saying they're not going to win a football game this year are. Yeah. So that said, I don't think it's going to be a crazy shootout. I think it's going to be a borderline shootout, and I'm going to take Colorado to win this game 38-37. If it was in Fort Worth, I probably would go the other way and have TCU winning a close contest. So I'm going to give Colorado the win here because of the home field advantage. And again, I think TCU has more question marks than a lot of people when they look at both these teams and just say that, well, Colorado's not any good. I think it goes a lot deeper than that.
Yeah, and for some reason I feel like the perception of Colorado is that this is CU circa 2012, when they were getting blown out every week. And this program is not that bad. I mean, the win total might not be a whole lot better. This might be a 3-4 win team, but I think they're going to be competitive in most games, even if they lose them. I mean, that team was getting blown out, 56-14, every week, as we know. This team is not that bad. And I mean, TCU, the Athletic just came out with some of their previews. They have TCU projected last in the Big 12. The last place team in the Big 12 should not be, favored by almost 2 touchdowns here in Boulder. I'm not a gambling man. I don't do that. But if I did, I would run and put money on CU plus 13.5 on this. I think they cover easily. In fact, I think they win the game outright. And I say mild shootout. I think it's 30-27 Buffs. I think for the Buffs, 30 points would be insane. When you look at last year's offense, that's a ton of points. I think they get to 30. I think the defense holds them down to 27. And entertaining game, but I think the Buffs win by a field goal.
All right, and then in terms of the season, you've got, again, I mentioned the people that think they're going to have a hard time winning more than 2 games. I heard on a couple podcasts they think CU might go defeated and not win a game this year. And then on the other hand, you've got this group that just left the practice fields here that is super optimistic. They feel like they've really come together as a team, kind of circled the wagons back in January, and have brought in transfers that have gone kind of under the radar. All the focus has been on the guys that left this program, right, and not the guys that they brought in. And so I said this on our podcast, it's like they say, there's 2 sides to every story. The truth lies somewhere in the middle. That's kind of how I feel about when I look at the expectations for this football team. Offensively, there's not a unit on this offense that I would trade this year's for last year's other than running back. Yeah. And Jarek Broussard is a nice back, so you'd like to have him in this program. But Alex Fontenot has been a lead back here before, so that's not necessarily a huge issue. This offense is going to be a better offense than it was last year. Defensively, maybe they take a minor step back, but I thought that defense played well enough for them to be a bowl team a year ago. They still somehow won 4 games with that offense that they had. Now the schedule's tougher, so you got to factor that in there. October is the month that this program is going to have to win a lot of football games when you look at the schedule. If they want to go to a bowl game, I think they need to be 5-3 going into November and try to sneak one out in that final month. September, probably need to find a way to go 2-2 in order to kind of keep that bowl hope alive. I think they're going to fall just short of that. And this is crazy to sound like a homer pick, but I'm going to have them going 5-7, and a lot of people will think that's unrealistic. Everything about this program tells me that it's better than what people that aren't around this team on a regular basis think.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And you and I both hear from fans. I hear from plenty that say, I don't see 2 wins on this schedule. I don't see 1 win on this schedule. And, I can find 8 wins on this schedule. I'm not projecting that, but I see 4 wins. I got 4 and 8. I'll get right into it, but I got 4 and 8, so a little bit less than you. But I can look at 4 other games and say those are swing games that if you got some things that go right, I could see them winning that game, and so I can see that potential for 8. This team is not. I mean, I would be absolutely stunned if they were 0-12 or 1-11. 2-12, I think, or 2-10 would even surprise me a little bit. I think that this is a team that can win 4 games. I do think they fall short. I think they get this one this week, stumble a little bit for the next few weeks, but then I think they have a nice October. But then November is just. That's a tough November. You got Oregon here, Utah here at the end of the season. Those are the 2 favorites in the conference, or 2 of them. The other favorite in the conference is USC, and you got to go to their place. You've never beat them before. Kind of the wild card there is at Washington. How are they going to be? That's why when you say you got to have 5 going into November, that best chance for the win might be at Washington. Yep. If you want a bowl game, you probably have to have 5 going in. I don't see them getting 2 in November. I project them getting none in November, but I have Washington as one of those swing games. I think the offense is going to be better than it was last year. I agree with you. I think the defense maybe takes a step back, but I think they're about where they were last year. And if the offense is a little bit better and the defense is about where they were last year, this team can win 6 games and go to a bowl game.
Yeah, and these people that say, well, where do you find the 6 wins? The Pac-12 is probably not going to be good again this year, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams with question marks. I think Utah has the fewest question marks, and that's why I think we both picked them to win the conference. USC's offense could be really electric, but they have question marks. Oregon has question marks. I mean, by and large, aside from that, there's not a game on the schedule that they can't win. And you mentioned swing games. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on CU right now. I think they would really like to have a UNC like they did last year for that opener to open things up. And so there's a lot of pressure on this team right out of the gate. If they lay an egg on Friday, then you really worry about this team in 2022.
Yeah, and when people say the schedule is tougher, I look at it and I look at the Pac-12. I'm like, it's not a great conference, right? And the whole narrative of the Pac-12 is not a great conference. So how can this be a brutal schedule for the Buffs? I mean, to me, the difference is you don't open with the UNC, right? You don't have that. I hate to say this because I like UNC, but I hate to call them a cupcake, but you don't have that cupcake on the schedule. That's the one difference is you replace that with, I guess, basically Air Force, right? And there's just no cupcake going down there. So it is a tougher schedule, but really because of that one game. I think that there's opportunities there, and there's so many swing games. I mean, how good is Arizona with all the changes they've made? How good is Arizona State? Are they going to be a train wreck by the time they get here in late October? UCLA has lost the last 3 times they've come here. How good are they really under Chip? They've only beaten 2 teams that had a winning record in his entire tenure there. So how good are they really? There's some swing games there where you can say, all right. I mean, Oregon State's another one. You go up to their place, that's going to be tough, but are they really on their way back, or was last year a flash in the pan? I think they are, but on their way back. But those are swing games. Those are games I see. If the Buffs get rolling a little bit, that's why I think this Friday is so critical. If you win this game, I think you set yourself up for potentially a nice start and a nice season. If you lose this one, I think it's going to be a long year.
And momentum is so big when you're talking about 18 to 22-year-old young men. We get to check out the new sound system in Folsom Field on Friday night. We get to see exactly how much mass Ralphie's put onto her frame since last season. Anything else you're looking forward to on Friday night?
Really just the atmosphere. 8 p.m. on Friday night. I know it's super late, but Friday night on ESPN it's a pretty electric atmosphere at Folsom Field, and so looking forward to that. And frankly, just the young players. I mean, there's so many young guys. There's a lot of 6th-year and 5th-year seniors on this team that we've seen, but there's so many of those young guys. Like, how good are they? And that's kind of the biggest thing is, well, and also who's going to start? Who's going to take those first snaps at quarterback?
Yeah. All right, well, they're telling fans to wear black to the game on Friday night. We will be back with more analysis after the game.